Hi there, guys. Vinny Chopra here. Apartment syndication made easy. Abundance mindset with Vinny Chopra live show that I do on Thursday morning while I walk or do exercise, 9 a.m. Pacific. Then I do Vinny and Bo show 9 a.m. on Friday. So two live shows and apartment syndication, and then the youth mentoring show that I'm starting, and a Desi mindset and featuring show with the Desi show with the Indian and the Asian background. Vinny's got a lot of time. What should I say? I've got a wonderful personality here in the studio with me. My brother, my very good friend, Neal Bawa is in the house. Hold on. Did you hear? Did you hear what I just said? Neal Bawa. This is the world-renowned personality that has just shaken up the data scientist, the mad data scientist, right here with me in the studio. And we're going to be having some lunch together soon here because we live only 45 minutes away. Neal, how are you, brother?
Fantastic. Again, it is a joy, a pleasure, and an honor to be with you, Vinny. I learned so much from you. I watched so many of your live events. We've presented at so many conferences together. I remember for the first time when I met you in person was early 2018 at a conference in Atlanta hosted by Dylan Marma. And I'm just amazed to see all the things that you've done since then. It's been an amazing journey.
Oh, thank you. And brother, I don't want to take away time, but Neal Bawa, as you all know already, but those who don't, is a technologist who is universally known in real estate circles as the mad scientist of multifamily. He's got the research, everything on his palm. And besides being one of the most in-demand speakers in commercial real estate, he's in so many platforms, so many podcasts. Just Google him, just follow him. If you haven't started to follow, please follow his YouTube, his all the social channels, because you would just adhere and share with a lot of people what he's presenting. He's just a great friend and real estate. And Neal is a data guru, process freak. Yes, he's systems man. He's just a wonderful and an outstanding expert, which you are. Outsourcing, because you told me how many international assistants, I call it, are working for you and they're doing crushing it. But let me ask you a question. We were just discussing, how has this new revelation happened in the last few months? Share with us. I
I
think.
am super excited with what's happened in the last few months because as like you read a lot of books. I read books as well. And so some of the books that I've been reading recently about being a better CEO, right? So these are books that are specific to how do you scale your company? How do you be a better CEO? So next level evolution. And so
Yeah.
one of the books had interesting ideas about using ChatGPT to structure my thoughts, right? So ChatGPT is known for marketing. I'm sure you guys are using it
Hmm.
fantastically
Hmm.
well. We're using it. We're using AI. But I hadn't really thought about using it to structure my thoughts. And so what I realized was after having conversations with my staff that when I'm giving them complex and difficult projects, I am
Yes.
often not able to commit the amount of time and effort to write things down, give them goals, objectives, milestones, phases, timelines. I'm
Yeah.
not able to spend the amount of time that I would have in meetings, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to take over somebody's meetings. So I started thinking, how can ChatGPT help me with that? So now what I do
Mhm.
is every day, 4 to 5 times a day, I go into ChatGPT and I basically talk with ChatGPT about something that I want to do. So I'm going to give you one that I did earlier today, and I think that open up your mindset. I won't read the whole thing that I said to ChatGPT. I'll read a small
Sure.
portion of it. I'm the
Mhm.
founder and CEO of a real estate development company that builds built to rent townhomes through the US. I have an in-house team that's doing acquisition. I'm asking this team to do competitor analysis for me so I can stay one step ahead of all of my competitors. This is the quarterly meeting. In this meeting, my team has to research and get approved from me a competitor that they're going to study and then present that competitor to me. So they'll have an early reminder. They'll have to find and present a competitor 2 weeks before the quarterly meeting. Then they'll have 2 weeks to study it. And then the goal is for them to present the strength and the weaknesses of this competitor. They'll be presenting information on how large the company is in press releases, relevance of these press releases, access to backers, where they build their properties, how large are these properties, what are the amenities. Do they build in suburbs? Do they build in infill? Unit count, unit mix. What do the properties look like visually? Do they look beautiful? Are they standardized? Does every project look different? What can we learn from these people? What are the weaknesses that do we see? What does the analysis of their website tell us? You see how I'm using stream of consciousness to
Wow.
simply talk to this tool, right? I'm not in
Yes.
any way trying to structure what I'm saying, Vinny.
No.
I'm
No.
just trying to
No.
get whatever's in my head
Yep.
out. And even when
Out.
I stop, I often go back and say, oh, I forgot this. And then I start again. And so I talk for 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 minutes. And I get an astonishing amount of the stuff that's in my head out into ChatGPT. And
Sure.
then I finish by giving it instruction. So I basically say, please organize. And I want a detailed spec. I want it to be in this fashion. What about milestones? What about expected output? What about timelines? Please do phases. Here's phase one. Here's phase two. I just say it to it like I would say it to an assistant, and then
Yes.
it basically creates a project spec, and it's very detailed. And then the last thing I always tell it is, before we continue, let me take 60 seconds to tell you about Multifamily University. Are you ready to take your real estate investing to the next level? Look no further than Multifamily University. Our comprehensive resources, including guest podcast appearances, educational webinars, the Real Estate Trends Toolkit, and the Location Magic course, are all designed to make smart investing easy and accessible. Plus, with no subscriptions, no upsells, you can trust that we're always looking out for your best interests. But don't take our word for it. Check out what our satisfied customer, Carlos M., had to say. Neal's presentation was filled with invaluable information that is not readily available to the average investor. This group takes you to the elite level of investing. Join the ranks of the elite with Multifamily University. Join us at multifamilyu.com and start investing from a place of knowledge today. Not only will you have access to a wealth of knowledge from industry experts, but you'll also be able to stay ahead of the game with our in-depth analysis of market trends and potential recessions or corrections. Invest with confidence and make informed decisions based on data, not gut feel. Don't miss out. Visit us at multifamilyu.com today or click the link in the description below. And now, back to the content. Because ChatGPT unfortunately has this habit of using big words. So what I always say is I let it do it. Then I say, this is too wordy. I want you to make it more concise. Then I say, it's missing humor. It feels like a robot is writing this because the robot is writing it, right? And
Yep.
so I
Yep.
say, inject it with humor. Put in words. For example, I said for this competitor analysis, I said, use the word snooping. Use the word, we shall be like the CIA. Use the words, we shall know our enemy. And so then it put all of those kinds of things throughout in there. And my personality, Neal Bawa's personality, was embedded in there. And a 3.5 page beautiful process document was created. Now,
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
spent 5 minutes editing it, and then I called a meeting of the people. And then and here's the second part. This is the second aha moment that I've done. 90 days ago, I realized that my efficiency as a CEO was not high because I was giving people guidelines on projects. But because I was working on so many projects, on so many properties, and so many areas,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the time to follow through on whether they were doing their part of the job or not.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
I've done is I've hired, this has been almost 6 months, a Pakistani project manager. And he is
Yes.
a full-time project manager. He has the PMP certification, which is the United States #1 certification for
Yep.
project
Yep.
managers. Actually takes,
Yep.
you have to be a project manager for almost 10 years to get it. Afsal comes into these meetings and he sits down, and I basically do the ChatGPT thing. I present
Yep.
it, and then I shut my mouth. I say
Yep.
nothing. I
Totally
sit
agree.
there and I say, Afzal, please, could you go over this spec with all the team members to make sure everybody understands everything? And then if people have questions, I'll answer them. But otherwise, I shut my mouth. I'm not saying anything.
I
Afzal
love
is
it.
running the meetings and basically going through the spec, having
Yes.
conversations with the 4 or 5 people that are in the team,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they're having these conversations. And at the end of that process, I've ensured that everyone understands it, that it didn't
Mm-hmm.
really come directly from me, it came from Afzal. And thirdly, everyone knows that Afzal's going to be checking in on them twice a week in
Oh.
Asana. right? The project goes into Asana. All of the pieces that
Asana.
ChatGPT has created go into
Love
Asana.
Asana, Slack.
All
Yeah,
that stuff goes
Asana
in.
is.
The
Mm-hmm.
timelines are put in. The Afsel goes through and say, okay, phase one, what is your completion date? Phase two, what's your completion date? And I would never have had the time to write it down like that.
No.
ChatGPT is allowing me to just get things in. Like, for example, this document says identification phase, research phase, presentation phase, analysis phase, analytics phase. All of those things are created by ChatGPT and given to a project manager who's now going to run it. And I can even walk away from this meeting knowing the 80-20 rule has been met.
I love that. What a tremendous hack. This is golden nugget. Even everybody listening to us or watching us, guys, we got to stop. You got to stop and please go back and listen because this can change your life. It really can. Every entrepreneur, solopreneur, or CEO can change your life by hanging on. ChatGPT is here to stay. No matter whether you like it or not like it, follow up with it. Claude.ai, I use that.
Claude's
ChatGPT, I
incredible as
use
well.
it. Uh,
Anthropic, Claude, these are amazing.
Amazing.
Copilot.
Descript is another pilot. Then on my iPhone, I use two of them. Chatbot, I bought, which is a chatbot AI, and then I have a AI chat another one. I said, okay,
It's
$49 for the whole
these are incredible tools at an incredible
price.
and I want to emphasize it's not about figuring out which tool is the best. Copilot's
Yeah,
good for certain things, ChatGPT is good for
totally.
others, Claude is good for others.
Sure. Mhm.
Really, it's all about you.
Yeah.
Train
Yeah.
yourself to do this.
Yeah.
Train yourself to switch to ChatGPT and use it as much as possible. So one of the things that we've done in our company is we have the money to pay everyone and give them their own accounts, but we chose not to do that. We've chosen
Oh.
everyone to have one account in the company. And now
Ah.
I can look at what people are doing every day with the tool because on
Yeah.
the
Because
left
it
bar of
keeps
ChatGPT
history.
today, yesterday,
Yep.
previous 7 days. So I'm looking at what people are using ChatGPT in the company for, and that allows me to give suggestions to them and say, hey, I feel like you're not using it enough. Look at how other people are using it. It allows me to
Totally.
highlight a brilliant use of ChatGPT in our Slack channels and
I
say,
love
hey,
it.
yesterday I saw this person do this. Look at the way they're asking questions. Look at the way that they're getting response and structuring ChatGPT because
Yes.
ChatGPT is as good or as awful as you are. High
It's
quality
it's
instructions, high quality
the
output.
prompts
It's
we
the
call it,
prompt
like
that matters, right?
prompts that we matters.
And you have
Yes.
to really spend a lot of time on prompts and never accept its first response because its first response is always you've got to finesse it.
I'm so glad you're saying that because you say, give me more or refine this. Give those
Yeah,
kind of, so
tweak
you're
it.
talking to,
This still
tweaking
doesn't
it.
sound like me, ChatGPT. I'm usually more tongue in cheek. I'm usually somebody that wants to motivate the team. And ChatGPT, why are there no questions in here? The way that I work, I like a question-based strategy. I want each section to have a question for the team,
Yes.
right? Where are the
Yes.
questions for the team? What will make the team think for themselves? If all the CEO books say that the right
Yeah.
strategy is the questioning technique. So even when
Totally.
I'm giving them a spec, each section ChatGPT has to have questions,
Love
right?
it. Love it. Love it. This is
So this book
amazing.
that I read, and actually it wasn't a book that I read, it was a Blinkist. Blinkist
Ah,
is
Blinkist, I
17-minute
know. Yeah.
summaries of
Yes.
books, right? So what
I
happens is
love.
I go out and read a book and then
Mhm.
I forget 90% of it. So what I do is when I read a book, when I want to give it 4 stars or 5 stars. Four
Yep.
stars is okay, maybe I got something out of it. 5 stars is I have to later on go back and listen to the Blinkist,
Listen.
which is 15 to
Yes.
17 minutes
Yeah.
and then I'll remember because the Blinkist usually takes the most important stuff and puts it in. Now that I've read the book
Yes.
already,
Hmm?
I don't need to read it again because I'll never have the
Totally.
time to read it again.
Never.
But I do have
So
the time
true.
to read a 15-minute or read and
You
watch
know,
a
the
15-minute
summary
Blinkist.
and
Blinkist is the summary on the screen and then the audio. So I turn on the audio and then I read at the same time because you want both audio input and visual input in at the same time
together
because
so
there's a
that you can
higher level of
grasp.
absorption when you're
Totally.
both listening to something and reading it at the same time. And so when I
Yes.
finished the Blinkist, I picked just two areas. I'm very selective, two areas in the Blinkist that were interesting to me. And then
Hmm.
what I do is I go into Slack and I ask my executive assistant, who's also in the Philippines, and I say,
Yep.
could you ask me tomorrow about these two areas? right? And then in the morning, the meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning with her,
Uh-huh.
I have to then, before the end of the meeting, find a way to use those two things and apply it to my calendar for the day.
I love that.
So I have a
Love
chance
that.
to use it, right? Because people
Hmm.
read these books, but they don't
If we
send
don't use
immediate,
it, we lose it.
immediate, like right now
Yes.
is the time when I'm most excited. From now
Correct. Correct.
onwards, the excitement will only ever go down, right?
Down.
So,
Yep.
so if you're not able to implement something within the next 15, 20 minutes, the chances that you will actually implement it are very small.
Very small, very small. I'm so glad you brought Blinkist because I used to have an account with them. I will go back. I know I love Audible.com, which loves 14.95, whatever it is. It's so amazing that you are able to listen in because we as entrepreneurs, we have so much going on in our lives, different diversified businesses. But the key thing is we got to be on the cutting edge. I'd like to ask everybody watching us or listening to us, if you're not into Audible or Blinkist, make it. That's the best. I don't know how much it is. $12 times 15, $180
And
for
Blinkist
it.
is even cheaper. You can
Oh, is
easily
it?
Google 50% off Blinkist and pay fifty
Hold
dollars a
on.
year. So it's
Hey,
that's like $4 a month.
I'm
It's
doing it
I
right now.
here's what I can say, right? If you
Yeah.
if you pay $50 per month and you improve yourself in just one way, there's 5,000 books on Blinkist. If you just
Yeah.
make one single improvement,
So
one,
true.
not one a day, not one a month, but one total,
Totally.
that one improvement will make you thousands or
Thousands,
hundreds of thousands
thousands.
of dollars. So your
Totally.
return on investment or your ROI on a $50 Blinkist investment is 100x, 1,000x, or 10,000x.
I totally believe in that. Totally believe that. Self development is the best way to grow. Grow businesses, build visions, and use systems and make sure that we are really doing right because so many businesses you have, Neil, and I'm into, and people are waiting. Their livelihood is depending on how well we are running our companies. And that's a big obligation. And that's what I believe. I'm just so excited when I meet people like you who are just paving the way, Neil. And it's so exciting, brother. So let's dig into some research. Fed is slipping. Are they going to cut or not? They're saying on November. They were saying March before, right? Three cuts, 0.25, three times. They cut it 11 times before last year. Raised it, sorry, not cut, but raised it. So, what's your thinking? What's the prognosis? Nobody's got crystal ball, but where are you at in your thinking?
The Fed is doing exactly what they said they would do. If you go back 18 months ago and look
Hmm.
at and you Google the word Fed dot plot, Fed
Okay.
dot plot, you'll notice that the Federal Reserve each quarter has a voting, internal voting of all the governors, where they put in
Ah,
where they think interest rates are going to be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months
I
from now.
see.
And it's literally a process where they give them a sheet and each governor puts in a circle around where he
Oh,
thinks the rates are going to be at that time. And this then they basically take that dot plot and they plot the dot plot out so you can see which dot belongs to which governor. And the bottom line is the Fed said last year in
yeah.
2023 that they would cut interest rates in 2024 three times. But at different
Yeah.
times, Wall Street had forecasted seven rate cuts, six rate cuts, five rate cuts, four rate cuts, and today Wall Street has now finally come down to three rate cuts.
Three
And the
rate
reason for
cuts.
that is Wall Street is very instant gratification. They want
Hmm.
to live in a world where either stocks go up today or go down today,
Hmm.
whereas the Fed basically lives in this longer phases world. At this point, actually, things are going according to the Fed's plan. The Fed is seeing inflation reduce. We are seeing numbers come down.
Hmm. We
I
sure
have
have.
no doubt that we will be able to
See the cuts.
cut
Yeah.
three cuts this year. I feel like the cuts will accelerate next year. And the big reason why I feel the cuts are going to accelerate next year is not the U.S. The world economy is falling into a recession. The
Ah,
list
yeah.
of countries that are now in
Look at
recession is
Japan.
growing
Look
every
at,
week. So
oh,
you've got the
yeah.
Japanese, you've got
Yeah.
the Brits, the
And
parts of the
China. Look at
Eurozone.
China.
The
Yeah.
Chinese are not in recession, but let me put it this way. China is the
Mm.
growth engine of the world. If they're above
Well,
5% a
India
year, the
is
world
growth
does well.
engine too, brother.
India
Come
is
on, it's just
astonishing, right? So India is growing at 8%, which is the highest in the
highest
world
in
right
the.
now.
Yep,
So
yep.
India is the bright corner of the world, and so is the US.
Yes.
Amongst the developed world, it's the US. That's the only
Mm,
economy that's growing well. Amongst the developing
yes.
economies, it's India. The
India. Yep.
Chinese, they're not in a recession, but anytime Chinese are looking like their growth is going to be 3 or 4%, them being the growth engine of the world, what those numbers
Yeah.
are really weak. So
Yeah.
demand slows down drastically when an economy of 1.4 billion people, which is 7 times the size of the Indian economy, slows this drastically. Demand
Hmm.
slows because more than 50% of what China produces, it's for its own internal use,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so
Yep.
we have this massive economy that has been growing at 8, 7, 6%,
Hmm.
5%, now slowing into the fours and threes. And that is
Hmm.
slowing worldwide demand. That is slowing demand for everything from cement to semiconductors to
Yeah.
cars. And
Yep.
so we are seeing the world economy slow very drastically, especially in
Yeah.
Europe. And as a
Hmm.
result, there's going to be more and more pressure on the Fed to cut when others start cutting. So we started to see
Hmm.
cuts in these countries that I've just mentioned.
Yep.
Cuts have
Yep.
started this week. And so
Yep.
as
Yep.
more and more of those people cut, people are like, why does the Fed have to cut? Here's what people don't understand about how rate cuts work. We live in one world economy. Every company is country is competing against others.
Yeah.
If we if everyone else is cutting and we are not cutting, it
Hmm.
has a weird effect on our dollar. The US dollar
Totally.
becomes stronger. It becomes stronger because we are the ones not cutting, everyone else is cutting, right?
Cutting.
So
I
because
see.
we're not cutting, our dollar becomes stronger. Now, you might think that's a good thing. It's not, because our exports become much
Expensive.
more expensive, very
Expensive.
expensive.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
at some point, if everyone starts to cut, the Japanese are cutting, the Europeans are cutting, the Canadians are cutting, then it becomes impossible for us not to cut, because then we are at a significant disadvantage. The dollar becomes too strong. We like a strong dollar in America, but we don't want an over strong dollar. And the
Hmm.
dollar, by the way, and this is one of the things that I love to talk about in podcasts, because I
Hmm.
see huge amounts of garbage, Vinny, on the web about the end of the dollar, the de-dollarization of the
I
world, the
know.
end
Yeah.
of the petrodollar, the end of this, the end of that. And I
Yeah.
see 1,000 videos about this. Not
Yeah.
one of these videos ever has had an economist on. Not one. Because these videos, they have an agenda. Either the agenda is to sell Bitcoins, or to sell some
Yeah.
kind of alternative asset, or to sell gold, or to
Yeah.
just simply scare people and make yourself look like some genius, right? Here's the funny thing. All of these videos, they talk about the BRICS countries and what Russia is doing, what China is doing, but not once, Vinny, have I watched in any of these videos, not once, have I seen them provide this data. What has happened to the dollar in the last 10 years? Has it
Look
gone
at that.
up or has it gone down versus currencies of the world? The
Yeah.
answer is the dollar is up
Has been.
50% in the last 10 years versus every major currency in the world. Is
Wow.
everyone out there an idiot that the dollar is up 50%?
So wait a
50%?
minute. We could really look at it and say, hey, dollar, it's with inflation going higher, we might
Yes, but
say dollar is devaluing, to be
yeah,
truthful, right?
we can't,
No, we
because
cannot.
when I'm saying this, I'm
Yeah.
comparing it to other currencies. So let's
Yes,
compare it to
yes.
China.
Mhm.
China is devaluing more than us because they're printing a lot more money than us. Our
Yes.
debt is 130%. China's debt is 280% of
Oh,
GDP,
wow. Oh,
right?
wow. Oh,
Our debt is 130%. Japan's debt is 260% of GDP. So when we are looking at all these other currencies, they're
yes.
printing more than us. Their debt levels as a percentage of their GDP are more than us. Therefore, we cannot be saying that the dollar is devaluing, because I'm
Mm.
comparing other devaluing currencies versus our devaluing currency. So that's an
Got
apples
it.
to apples
Got
comparison.
got
So
it. Okay.
the truth is that the dollar's position as the reserve currency today is unquestionably stronger than it was 10 years ago, right?
Oh,
Now,
wow.
there are efforts being made to use the dollar less, and those efforts
Yes.
have borne fruit. So if you look at the total number of transactions in the world, at some
Mhm.
point it was 80% dollar, now it's 60% dollar. My point is that is just countries trying to basically use each other's currency, and it's not working well. If you want to go
Mhm.
out and research, um, India and China have now refused to do business with Russia using the ruble. They have said, you will either use our currency or another
Mhm.
currency. So,
Ah,
so bottom line is a lot of these currencies are in trouble. The yuan, which is a Chinese currency, is in trouble because they have 280% of debt to GDP.
yeah.
The ruble is in free fall. So just look at what is happening to the ruble over the last few months. The
Mhm.
problem is this. The United States has big problems. We've got huge problems, especially structural on the fiscal side. But what most people forget is that when they watch a video about what the BRICS are doing, BRIC is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa,
Mhm.
none of them have ever studied the economies of those countries. You're saying somehow that the United States will be replaced by the South African currency. Really? The South African currency, where people only have 4 hours a day of power? Have you heard about the fact that most of South Africa has no power and has not had power? Have you heard about the fact that South
Wow.
Africa is running out of water?
Water.
They're
I was gonna
literally
say
shipping water
water.
in because they're running out of water, right? And we're going to be replaced by China, the place where we have roughly $900 billion of real estate that is now worthless,
Yes,
right?
I know. They
150 million
overbuilt.
incomplete homes that cannot be completed. So
Yeah.
they have a $900 billion bust going on in real estate. That's what's going to replace the reserve currency of the
Mhm.
world. Brazil is even worse. And the Russians are the
Mhm.
worst of them all. The last thing the ruble can do is replace the US dollar. They can't even get anybody to accept the ruble. So while there are countries trying to de-dollarize, there are also
Mhm.
countries dollarizing at the same time. For example, Argentina has just
Uh-huh.
moved to the US dollar as their currency. They've said,
You know what?
we
We
have,
were just there. We were
yeah,
just
so
there two
bottom
weeks
line is
back.
they're saying we just absolutely don't know how to manage our currency. We're going to move. There are over a dozen countries right now voting on moving to the US dollar as their own currency. So you never hear
$1.
balanced news. You just hear one side.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Buenos Aires. We were there. We went to Patagonia, my wife and I, with her sister and all. And $1 was Argentinian.
Yeah.
What do they say? Pesos? Or I
And
don't know what they say.
yeah, yeah,
But
whatever the
thousand.
Argentina currency is. And by
Everything
the
is
time you
so
left, it was
cheap.
worth more than when you came in.
Yes,
But
yes. We ate everything, four dinners, filet mignons with drinks, with sides, four people under $97 at a
wow,
five-star restaurant in Buenos
that's amazing.
Aires.
That's amazing, right? And again, that is the true power of the dollar. You
Yeah,
walked in
yeah.
there, that meal would have cost you $500-600 here in the US. And you
Easy,
were able,
easy.
yeah, and you were able to buy that meal for under $100 in someone else's country.
$100.
That's the power of the US dollar. And I think that
Dollar,
what
it
most
is.
people don't understand is the world financial system is falling apart. The world manufacturing system is falling apart. There is definitely a move to de-globalize, right? And it's happening.
Hmm.
And so I think people have to understand what this means for them
Hmm.
and for the United States, because I can tell you this, the next 10 years are going to be challenging. But if you
Hmm.
want to understand what is really going on in the world, there's the one guy who is a very entertaining and fun guy. I listen to him every day for the last
Really,
5 years.
really.
His name
What's
is
his name?
Peter Zeihan. Peter
Oh,
Zeihan is a very entertaining, funny,
wow.
interesting
I'm gonna.
geopolitical strategist.
Hmm.
What Peter talks about is the end of globalization. He talks about
Ah.
how that will hurt the United States and how it will benefit the United States. So if you want to listen to people, don't go out and listen to these stupid YouTube videos. Listen to a
Ah.
guy who gets paid by the CIA and the government to advise them
Hmm.
on what is happening geopolitically. He will
So
listen to
true.
what he says about China. Listen to what he
Hmm.
says about Brazil. Listen to what he says about other currencies of the world. Listen to what he said about the Eurozone this morning. Bottom line is this. We
Wow.
are
Wow. So it's a
unquestioned. The United
podcast,
States,
is that right? It's a
it's a
podcast,
daily video. It's between two and
daily
five
video.
minutes, and it's free.
Okay, daily
And
video.
you don't
Yeah.
have to pay for it. And he has 1 hour videos on YouTube that are the best hour I've ever spent. I've sent
Hmm.
it to hundreds of people because
I'll
I think what
watch it.
people need to
I'll
understand is this.
watch. Yeah.
There is an understanding amongst the American population that something big is wrong. And they're right. Something big is wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just wrong in the United States. It's
It's
actually even
all
more wrong in other countries, right?
outside. Yeah.
And here's the truth to the matter. We're a pig as a country, but we are the best looking pig in the pigsty. There are no pigs in this
We
pigsty
are
that are as good
consumers.
looking. as
we
the
are
United States.
we eat abundantly, and we eat not only food abundantly, but we consume more medicines also, like with the abundance mindset, which is wrong.
I-
I
It's
mean,
it's it's a I think the I don't want to argue the right and wrong of it. So I'll simply say this without talking about the ethics and the morals of the situation that we are in.
Mhm.
Anyone studying this matter deeply would understand that the United States is set up for 50 years of world domination. 50 years. And that
Wow.
comes to an end when we end up in the same demographic position as China. So China has the
Yeah.
worst demographics in the world.
Hmm.
By 2050, China's population will go from 1.4 billion to 800 million. So they will lose
Yes.
600
Yes.
million people,
Wow.
and which is worse than Japan because Japan hasn't lost that many people. Bottom line is our demographics in the United States are pretty strong and will
Yeah.
be weakening after 2050. So we will end up in a very bad position beyond 2050. But until 2050, India and the United States are the two countries with young,
Yes.
vibrant demographics.
So
And
true.
we have an advantage over India. India is in a very poor position when it comes to energy. They import
Hmm.
all of their energy, and even the energy that they have is coal, which is more expensive these days than
Hmm.
natural gas or oil.
Yep.
The
They're
United States,
promoting a lot more about solar, as
they
India
are, and they're
also
doing a
has
very
a
good
lot
job.
of
By the way,
solar. Yeah.
here's what I can
Yeah.
tell you. What
Yeah.
India and China are doing together on solar is more than the rest of the entire world put together.
World.
So these two
Yes.
countries
Yes.
are doing an
Yeah.
incredible job with solar. I'm very
Sure.
pleased that they're doing that, and they're doing very
Totally.
cheap solar. So that's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but the United States, we are in an energy dominant position. We have 300 years of cheap natural gas. We have unlimited
Hmm.
amounts of oil. We are now the largest oil producer in the world.
The
In the
world.
world,
Yes.
we are
Yes. Yep.
producing 18 million barrels a day equivalent of oil. And a lot of people are like, yes, but climate change. And the answer is, but we're also moving in that direction. Climate change, we're making substantive changes in that direction, but the process of climate change is stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. There will be two steps forward and one step back, and two steps forward and one step back for the next 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
In the meantime, having access to trillions of dollars of energy puts us in an absolutely astonishing position. No
Position.
country in the world is ranked for food security and energy security as high as the United States, right?
Wow.
Combination of
Wow.
combination
Hmm.
of there.
Hmm.
Saudi Arabia might have more energy security, but
I
they
was
have the
thinking,
worst food
yeah.
security in the world. The
Yeah.
Saudi Arabians are essentially desalinizing water to grow crops, and that
Yep.
cost is astonishingly high.
Yep.
Desalination is a very expensive technology. The United
Yep.
States has the best river network in the world. We have astonishing
Yes.
amounts of water. So the truth is, none of this changes the fact that we have two major problems in our country. One is we're politically polarized. And the second is that
That
we
is,
are
yeah.
at the point where our debt is beginning to become a bigger and bigger burden on our growth. So
Yeah.
it's slowing down our
So
growth.
true.
These two
So
problems
true.
have to be worked on. All right.
Hmm.
These are huge problems. I'm not saying that they're small, they're big,
Small,
they're
yeah.
problematic.
With
But
election
when I
year, also
study the
20,
rest of the
yeah.
world, we are
Hmm.
so far ahead that all I can say is the rest of the world will catch up to us in 20 or 30 years if we don't fix our problems.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I like the policy which USA has about immigration also. We are
Yep.
getting good quality minds and everything. And of course it's been penetrated from the South and all that. Those are politics and all that. But again, the one thing which I have really hard time is who are the two candidates who are that you could vote for. So that's the other part. We can go. I'm not political guy. I don't get into that, but that's something else with the value system and everything. But it's
It's
such
sad
a
because
tremendous
immigration is, if I had to name a one word of what has
yeah,
kept America great in the last 50 years, if I was only given one word, it's Neil, you can't have two words. That
yeah.
one word would be immigration.
Immigration,
So
totally immigration, brother.
there's the amount of data from people who are
Yeah.
not trying to grind an axe on the left or an axe on the right, people
Hmm.
that basically are scientists who are studying these matters. What makes
Yeah.
America great is immigration, and that hasn't
Yeah.
changed in any way. Now,
Not
obviously,
at
today immigration is slowing, and I don't think that's going to change.
all.
Um,
Hmm.
but but people here have bought into a nonsensical culture that somehow immigrants take their jobs, which is a truly absurd idea because they've actually never read a white paper or a report on this. They've watched
Hmm.
50 YouTube videos from some guy on the left or some guy on the right that had some kind of axe to grind. So Democrats are basically chasing votes for
Yeah.
immigrants. And so they say a bunch of things that they shouldn't be saying. Republicans are chasing votes that they can get by making immigrants into criminals. And so
Yeah.
either way, there's no balance to those things. So it's better to actually go out and do, analytical research
Full
on
research.
what the
Yeah.
pros and cons of immigration are. Do you know that
Hmm.
other countries like Portugal and Canada are now understanding the value of immigration? And Canada is now opening its doors and saying, I
Opening
want
big
more
times,
immigrants
brother. Big
because my
times.
growth is slowing tremendously without immigrants. So
Yeah.
uh, countries all over the world are beginning to
Yeah.
understand that. I can tell you the least, the most closed society in the world for the last 400 years has been Japan. The
Oh,
Japanese
yes.
have
Yes.
extreme fear of having their blood be in any way combined with any other blood. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
The Japanese are right now voting on opening immigration because they
Immigration. Yeah.
understand the only way to
Hmm.
grow is to have immigration. The
So
Japanese,
true.
and
So
these
true.
are people for 400 years. There's actually right now a very hit series called Shogun on the FX network. It
Uh-huh.
premiered 2 weeks ago, right? Very nice
Ah,
series. And that series is talking about how anti-immigration Japan was in the 1600s, 400 years ago. So this society has been closed for 400 years. Now they're
wow.
saying this was a mistake. We have to open up.
I'll be darned. I'll be there. And again, I was reading the statistics like in USA, we are at 365 million or close to it or something, maybe.
335,
And
yeah.
it's 335. It's going to be 425 in 50 years. And a lot of that might be reversing the trend in birth rates and all, because the immigrants tend to have more births, I guess. But the other thing is immigration of the net people coming in and people dying and people becoming seniors. I'm very big in the silver tsunami with 10,000 baby boomers turning 65, then 75, then
Every day, I
85.
think,
Every
right?
day, yeah. This is every day, by the way. And my daughter and I just spent 2 days of looking at assets in senior living in Arizona, in Phoenix, in all over, because we have been building them in Florida, in Virginia, in all other places. And we just feel like, why not close to home? So Florida is number one for seniors retiring, and Arizona is another one. So that's where I was thinking I might throw in there. But let me ask you a question. Where do you see what prospects are there in multifamily or other alternative assets? I'd love to pick your brain on that.
Instead of answering that question from the multifamily perspective, I would simply say this. I like buying assets that are cheap. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
in any way a huge fan of multifamily. In fact, if you watch any of my podcasts over the last 2 years, I've been very negative on multifamily because the prices have
Mhm.
been very high. And so
Yeah.
I don't
I
buy,
haven't bought
and
either, by the way.
students of mine have
2023,
bought five
zero.
times as many properties as I have. It's just don't buy, it's expensive. So
Yeah, yeah.
now multifamily is cheap. It's gone down about 25%. I'm more interested in purchasing it now. I still think it'll go down more. I still think it'll
More.
go down 5%, 7%
Sure.
more because I think that not enough of the distress is in the marketplace yet. And
Yeah,
at some
not
point in
yet.
2024, that
Hmm.
remaining group of 3,000 properties that are not in the marketplace yet will come to market, and that'll drive the prices down another 5, 6, 7%. So
Percent down.
multifamily is in a good place from a pricing perspective. So I like that.
Yeah.
And I like that asset class. We have now started purchasing again. We've been pencils down for a long time. Haven't
Hmm.
done much acquisitions at all, but now we're buying
2023
again.
was zero year for our company, Monil. Zero,
Yeah,
brother.
again, it
Two, I
makes
bought
sense
only
though.
one.
Right,
And
right.
I
So
think 2020, I bought 22, 21, I bought one maybe. So, been
it's
kind of selling.
multifamily has been
Yeah,
expensive,
yeah,
and I think that
yeah.
people who've been in this trade for a long time understood that. And now I feel I'm getting prices that are about 25% lower than the peak. The peak price was
I
March
know
of
you and I put some
2022.
LOIs, remember, in Florida. I
I
still
know, and
remember
it
that.
was like even as we were putting those in, it was like this is too expensive. And we were
Exactly.
not even close. We were outbid by 2 million, $3 million. And this is a fool's errand. This makes no sense. So just like you, we just stopped, right? We like you have to invent mathematics to make deals
Hmm.
work, right? It just didn't make sense. Today, that's not the
Does it?
case because
Yeah.
cash flow has come back into multifamily, especially if you
Hmm.
can find a property that has an assumable fixed loan.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
hard. It's very
Hmm.
difficult to find these assumable fixed loan, but we're
Or
having some
seller
success.
financing, but at a
Or seller
lower
financing.
level, you could
Yeah,
get seller financing or
right,
assumption to buy. That's
right.
another one.
So I think the market is
Exemption, mass.
more balanced now. I don't think it's the best opportunity out there, but I think it's more balanced. When I look at non-multifamily commercial real estate assets, the situation is a bit more murky there. It's not as clear as multifamily. Multifamily
Hmm.
prices have come down. That much is
Hmm.
clear, right? When I look at other assets, whether it's student housing, senior housing,
Yep.
hotels,
Hmm.
industrial, I'm
Yep.
not seeing price declines that should have happened. Now,
Yeah.
there are probably different reasons for different ones. Silver tsunami for seniors, for industrial, it's data centers for AI,
Yep. Yep.
right? So
Yep.
there are reasons why these asset classes have not declined, but
Yes.
interest rates are high. So to me, I can't say that these assets are cheap. I can simply say maybe they're okay, but they're not
Yeah.
cheap. So I'm not interested in buying something if it's not cheap.
I like that. Totally. And cash flow is king. I know you
Yep.
have said that. I've said it. Cap rates and all these. Of course, interest rates. You have bought, I have bought 6.5, 7 even, 7.5 even in the 210s, 11s, 12s, like that. But the key thing is to keep your eye on the ball. I always say that. You got to be not out of the ball game to play the ball. You got to be in it and be true to your investors and keep on keeping them warm so that when you buy the deal, they jump in with you. No, it's been such a tremendous time with you, Neil. Thank you so much for taking some so special time with me today. And I know you have enriched the viewers and watchers and listeners just tremendously with all your. What would you say? Last few comments, like we talked about all these great hacks. I believe in hacks. AI. We talked about ChatGPT. We talked about Cloud.ai. You shared that memorandum. Very nice, beautiful. How CEOs can do better job. And Opus Pro. I think you were using it already, and we use it also to the hilt.
Mhm.
It's amazing. What Asana, of course. I hope everybody listening to us, Slack, Asana, get into that. If you're staying outside because it's too difficult, it's not. Go high level. I am just having a ball. I let go of everything Infusionsoft, Active Campaign, ClickFunnels, Kajabi, everything. I've given up. Everything is into my go high level now SaaS program, SaaS, and I can give it to anybody for free, or I can charge money per month. This is a white label program. It's amazing. So Monil Media is my new company, which is with the go high level. It's got funnels, it's got everything. I'm just giving a hack to everybody listening and watching us. And the beauty I like in that one, maybe you know. Do you know about go high level?
I've studied it, but I haven't
Oh,
moved to it.
studied it. Okay. The thing is, I paid $70,000 to build these email systems and funnels and calendars. Guess what? I can clone them and give it to anybody in my accounts.
Wow.
I can set up thousands of accounts under my umbrella. And of course, I'll have NCND and everything with everybody so that nobody does anything in the databases, which is true. The other thing is I can clone and give it to them for free. And they can get started with that 70,000 I spent. I could give it to 1 million people and go high level never charges any extra money for having larger databases, which a lot of other programs charge. So a lot of good things. I'm just a proponent of Go High Level. And it's got courses, it's got memberships, it's got social media, it's got everything built in it
Fantastic.
in one.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Amazing,
just a
amazing tool,
beautiful,
amazing hack.
yeah, reading hack. So love to. Any books? I know you shared that podcast, Peter Zeihan. I'm going to do that. Of course, any books that you're reading? I know you just read some book and got you going with the Chat GPT with the CEO. Any other points
Well,
that you might like to give to the audience?
I
Yeah.
want to see if I can find the name of the book itself. Nothing comes to mind for the moment. I think that right
Yeah.
now I'm just trying to read books about taking my company to the next level. So any book that helps me take my company to the next level is absolutely interesting and fun for me.
Yes. And again, Neal, I love to bring you back again, brother. And I'm glad you saw the logo. Desi Money Show, right? Yeah, Desi Money Show, where we'll be featuring. And I thank you for accepting the invitation to come back. And we'll talk in Hindi and Punjabi and a lot of good stuff right there. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that. And everybody, if you liked this episode, please share it with all your friends and colleagues and everybody on their socials, because Neal Bawa, he's an icon, and I know that you got a lot out of it. I know I got a lot out of it. And thank you so much for your time. God bless you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And anyone that wishes to connect with us can do so
Please.
on multifamilyu.com. That's multifamily followed by the letter u.com. That's where we store all of our data webinars. We do 12 of them a year. We have about 25,000 people that attend them. Check those out.
I'm so glad you said that. I was going to ask you, how can people reach you? And you have a beautiful YouTube channel too, by the way, right? So
it's very fun to be on YouTube. Yes. So Multifamily University on YouTube.
YouTube. Thank you, Neal. Thank you so much, brother. God bless you. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.